Hello bookworms! Today I'm here with the Reader Problems book tag. This was originally created by About to Read. I will leave a link to the original tag down below. I thought that this would be a fun one to do because being passionate about books, there are always a ton of things that bother me, and I'm gonna share them all with all of you. So the first question is, you have 20,000 books on your TBR. How do you choose which book to read next? This is so hard. I try really hard to make a list of what it is that I want to read next, but a lot of times something else will come out, or I'll hear of something that I haven't heard of before, or something is happening with a series, and then I'm like, oh my god, I can't follow my list because I need to read this book instead of what I was planning on reading. And it just kind of depends on my mood and what I'm interested in, so I try to keep to a list, but it usually doesn't happen. I do take into consideration though, if I am getting books from publishers that I have to review, that would obviously go toward the top of my pile, whether it's necessarily what I really want to read at the time or not, because I feel obligated and bad if I don't post things in a timely manner. So that's really the first thing that I look for, and then I kind of choose what I feel like reading after that. The second question is, you are halfway through a book and you are not really loving it. Do you give up, or are you already committed? For me, I think the moment that I start reading that first page, it's kind of this unspoken contract that I've made with this book saying I promise that I will get through you and see you to the end. So as much as I don't like the fact that I do this, I just can't stop once I've started because I just feel bad, and what if something happens at the end that makes me like the book more than I did? And I do think that sometimes it's important to read books that you aren't necessarily totally in love with, just so that you can appreciate those other ones more, or just see what it is that you don't like about them so that you can be more articulate in the future about books that you do like. The third question is, the end of the year is coming and you are close but not caught up on your Goodreads goal for the year. What do you do, and do you try to catch up? For me, I absolutely try to catch up. The way that I do that is I tend to kind of put longer books toward the back of my reading list, and I'll grab some novellas or some graphic novels or manga or something that I know that I can get through quickly and in one sitting. And I will definitely take more time and make sure that I'm devoting a certain block of time every day to reading, because I am crazy about making goals and I hate when I miss them, and it does not happen very often, but when it does, it kills me. So I always try to reach my goal. The fourth question is, covers of a series that you love do not match. How do you cope? I can't take it. I hate when things are unmatching. I hate when publishers decide to change the look of a book in the middle of the series. It makes me feel like I can't even go on further because it's just gonna look ridiculous next to each other on my bookshelf. I hate when they change the sizes of certain things. And I've even recently upgraded a lot of my books to hardcovers just so that I would have a more cohesive collection, because it just drives me insane if it doesn't match. I have a major case of OCD, and it's just the way that I am, and I blame my parents. So yeah, they have to match. The fifth question is, everyone and their mother loves a certain book and you just don't love it. So where do you go to share those feelings? And for me, that answer is definitely my two best friends, Cassie and Melissa. We tend to have very similar tastes in books. There are some times where our opinions will diverge from each other, but for the most part we seem to be pretty much on the same page, so it's very easy to talk to them about it, and they are also very accepting if one of us isn't feeling another book that the other one is. So they're a really good support book system to have. Also, another great place to turn is the internet, because if there's one place where people love talking about things that they don't like, it is the internet, which I try not to do. I try to talk more about the things that I do enjoy, but it is good, if you don't like something, to have someone else to talk about it with. 6, you are reading a book in public and you are about to cry. What do you do? For me, I don't really cry so much. I'm kind of more maybe a robot type person. While I do get emotional about certain things that happen in books, it doesn't manifest in tears very often. I would say one time that I really did cry a lot, it wasn't in public, was in Harry Potter. Don't think I'm ever gonna be able to make any video without mentioning Harry Potter at least once. That was something that really affected me, but there were plenty of reasons why that was. Otherwise, I recognize, I don't know, I just don't really cry that much. I just never did, and just not a crier. 7. A sequel of a book you loved just came out, but you've forgotten a lot from the prior novel. Will you reread the book, or skip the sequel, or try to find a synopsis on Goodreads, or cry in frustration? From the last question, you know that I'm not going to cry in frustration, but chances are I can go back and look at a review that I did of the book. I've been reviewing books for as long as I can remember, like before I even had a blog. My friends in high school used to make fun of me all the time because once I finished a book, I just got like such intense satisfaction out of sitting at my laptop and writing a review for whichever book that I had just read, because I like to kind of keep track of what I read and know if I ever want to reference back, like, these were my feelings on it and these are some of the things that happened. So I do have like a very, very good collection of essays and stuff. So if I were unsure of what it was that happened, I would just kind of reference what I had written in the past, since I would understand my own words the best instead of someone else's on Goodreads. Okay, the next one's really funny. You do not want anyone borrowing your books. How do you politely tell people nope when they ask? I never really had an issue with people borrowing my books throughout my whole life. I treat my things very nicely, and I always just assumed that everyone else did. Like, it never occurred to me that people could damage different things, because my parents have always been like super strict about, you know, being meticulous and neat and all that kind of stuff. So that's just how I am as a person. But since I've gotten older and since I've seen some of the ways that other people treat things, I cannot even fathom like lending out certain things, because I just don't want anything to happen to some of my books. So usually I will kind of say, oh, you can borrow it, but these are all of the rules that you have to follow if you're borrowing one of my books. And usually that does the trick as a deterrent for that person not wanting to borrow it, because then they get nervous about ruining it, and they're like, never mind, I'll just grab my own copy or go to the library or whatever. But no one can eat around my books. Not okay. And I always tell everybody too, like, please do not go in the bathroom with one of my books, because that's just gross and I don't want them in those places. But I just like will imagine what might go on and then give a list of rules, and usually people are like, okay, forget it. 9 is reading ADD. You've picked up and put down about 5 books in the last month. How do you get over this reading slump? So I usually am not ever in a reading slump, which I know is kind of strange. If I were, I imagine that I would pick something shorter or something that I know that I'll enjoy. Like, I'll go back and reread an old favorite, and that will kind of help catapult me into all of the new books that I want to read. But for the most part, I tend to be pretty engaged in what I'm reading, and most of the time I am very concerned about finishing things. So even if I'm not enjoying it, I will push through, and then that will let me go on to a book that I am enjoying more. 10. There are so many new books coming out that you are dying to read. How many of them do you buy? And the answer to that would be all of them. I would buy all of them. I do love going to bookstores like every Tuesday, specifically the Strand in New York City, where I'll grab whatever new releases I really have on my list, especially hardcovers, because they have those in the YA section anyway for $9 most of the time, unless it's like a super well-known author. So I love going and picking those up, but yeah, I tend to buy everything that's new, which is why I have so many books on my shelves that I haven't read yet. Even though I do read at a pretty quick speed, my TBR gets overwhelming at times. Which brings us to question 11. After you've bought the new books you can't wait to get to, how long do they sit on your shelf before you get to read them? And for me, time frame from when I purchase a book until when I read it really depends on whether it's something that is like a series that I'm already super invested in and like have to read the next one immediately, or if it's something that maybe could kind of fall behind another one, it could take longer. There are some books that I've had for years that I haven't gotten to yet, and I probably should be better about culling some of my shelves when I get to that point. But it really all depends. Like I said, I tend to be sort of a mood reader in certain instances. So if I'm in the mood for like a contemporary book, I will pick one of those up and maybe not get to like a sci-fi novel that I had just gotten. Or if I'm in the mood for fantasy, I'll pick up fantasy and then something else will get kind of pushed back. So it really just all depends on what I'm in the mood for. But that is my reader problems tag. I tag anyone else who wants to make their own video, and I will have another video up soon, and see you then. Bye! You have 20,000 books on YouTube, yeah. 6. You are... My hair is messed up. You're like, okay. Other one. Other side. If it's a book that is in a series that I'm already... Oh.